Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel, and also welcome back to my lair of confusion, because I have got so many different topics on standby that I want to discuss on this channel, and they just keep getting pushed back and pushed back. For example, tonight, as promised in yesterday's video, I really wanted to jump into discussing what happens on my quarterly trips to Melbourne, where I meet with the psychiatrist who flies in specifically for these meetings from America, as well as the scientists and all the brain scans that I get done there and the reasons why that is. However, I'm not going to do that tonight because I was speaking to my friend John this afternoon, and John is a Survivor superfan, as they like to call it, and he told me that there is currently a new season of Survivor on Paramount+, and he said even though it's like 50 seasons, it's one of the best seasons he's ever seen. So I don't want to spend 4 hours tonight filming and editing and uploading a video. I want to be watching Survivor. While I was in Melbourne, every time I go to Melbourne, one of the tests that I have to get done is I have to get an MRI scan of my head for obvious reasons. And of course, I had to get one done again. And while I was laying in the MRI machine, so if you've never had an MRI machine, it is extremely loud and extremely uncomfortable, and you cannot move forever how long you're in there. So I was in there for almost 3 hours. So I'm just laying there trying to fill my mind with whatever I can. And I had an epiphany while I was in there. And the epiphany was, I think, the answer to, I hope, all my problems and the answer to me getting out of here in general. And that is that the realization that I am a predator. And so I thought, why not make a video on that? Because I've been ruminating on it for the 3 days since I got back. However, when I sat down to film a video titled, I am a predator, I realized that it's a really, really sensitive topic that is very easy to misconstrue if it's not worded correctly. And so I probably need to take a couple of days to think of how to correctly present it to you all so it doesn't get mixed up in translation. So I'm going to take a couple of days to do that and hopefully address that over the weekend and get a video out before next week. But with that taken off the table as well, I was really stuck for an idea of what to do. And so I'm sitting there, I'm thinking. And then I remembered that I started a little series a couple of months ago, and I did a couple of videos on it, and it kind of just fell off. I got onto other things that took precedence, and I never got back to it. So I figured tonight is a good time to get back to Drest Levesque journals. Except for it's not really Drest Levesque journals. I mean, the concept is exactly the same. However, they are not... The journal that I'm going to be doing tonight is not one that he gifted to me. So again, just if you've never seen it before, I did a video a few months ago about how my worst enemy broke into my house, drugged me, and gifted me journals. You can go watch that. I'll link it down below if I remember. But the journal that I'm going to be discussing tonight is not one of those. Instead, when I took Ash to the airport, I think in November, we live in the middle of nowhere, so whenever you go somewhere with shops, you stop and you go to the shops, and that's what I did. I went to Kmart, which in Australia is the absolute, it is everything that Walmart wants to be, but isn't. I stopped there, and I was looking at the journals, and I saw a specific journal that I thought was really, really interesting. And the reason that I thought it was really interesting is that if you didn't know, and you don't because I've never actually mentioned it on here, so you have no way of knowing, Drest Levesque, he comes from a specific ethnic group of people who worship shadows. Well, they worship truth, but they worship shadows as well. They worship shadows, they worship blood, they worship amethysts. Like, there's a whole thing. It's all very convoluted. So I saw this journal, which is the Shadow Work Journal. I was like, that's really interesting. He brought me like 12 journals. I wonder why he didn't buy me this one. And so while I was there, I picked it up just because it made me laugh. And I thought that it would really annoy him, me doing this journal. So it's been sitting on my shelf for a couple of months now. And I figured tonight is a good night to dive into it. So before we begin, let's talk about shadow work. The Shadow Work Journal. It sounds like a title that a goth life coach would cook up after getting high on too much incense. As I have said before on this channel, I spent most of my early adulthood living with Drest Levesque people, so I do know a thing or two about working with shadow. Am I at the level that Drest Levesque is at? No, I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form when it comes to shadow. However, I do know a trick or two about it. From what I understand, it was really, really popular like a year or so ago on social media, and it was actually a really expensive journal. which I'm going to be really sad if it turns out to be just nonsense. So I'm hoping that there is something of actual substance in terms of shadow work in here, but we will have to dive into it to see. Confront your fears and learn to love yourself with a shadow work journal as your guide. Explore healing prompts and insightful exercises to unlock greater self-awareness, overcome self-sabotage, and find a deeper connection with your authentic self. Join the millions whose lives have been transformed. It's time to step out of your shadow and experience the healing you deserve. Now, does that description cover points that are significant to real-life shadow work? Yeah, it does on a certain degree. It does engage with what you would require to work successfully and safely with shadow. You do need a solid foundation of your own understanding of yourself and your psyche. That's all very much true. However, I don't really understand the point of the journal. Reading it, again, the back, I haven't actually opened the journal to really look at in any significant way. But reading the back and looking at it, I can understand why Drest Levesque didn't buy me this journal. I mean, it's not like cultural appropriation, as the kids like to say, or I don't think he's offended by the existence of the journal. I think it's most likely he just doesn't understand the point of people working with shadow here in this way. But we're going to, dive into it, crack it open, and see how far and deep it goes. So I've just flicked through the journal, and there is a whole section that is just these fill in the blanks with accompanying reflection questions. So I think we might turn it into like a mini series in which I do these. We will see, but I think today I'm just going to do the accompanying reflection question page here, and then we'll call it a day, and I'll come back to it on another day because they seem quite interesting, really. How many of them are there? There's 8 of them, and you don't want to sit here and listen to me do 8 fill in the blanks and reflection questions. So we're just going to do the one that I'm doing today, and we will come back to them. Okay, I am trusting my future self to have recorded the fill in the blanks page so you know which questions I'm trying to answer. But if not, I will have. I'm not an idiot. But on the off chance that I didn't, I'm sure that you can fill in the blanks, so to say. So anyway, my answers to the Working with Shadows journal fill in the blanks page are as following. I always feel like I am the only sane one. Binge watching old movies and eating junk food is how I escape. A good book and 5 minutes without seeing something that defies all known laws of physics brings me peace. I'm so tired of humanity and paperwork. But I feel excited about finally getting 8 hours of sleep and screwing with people's egos. I want to try being nice for a whole day, just so I can finally prove that it is overrated. For some reason, I always end up cleaning up someone else's mess. I deserve to sleep past noon on Sundays and probably a lobotomy. Okay, so today's reflection questions are as follows. Number 1, why am I sometimes seduced into a lack mentality? Frankly, because pessimism is like an old, comfortable pair of boots. They're worn out and they're full of holes, and yet they somehow fit you completely perfectly at all times. To be honest, it's easier just to assume the worst about life and other people, and frankly myself, rather than risk disappointment when the universe inevitably decides to pull the rug out from underneath me. And besides, a lack mentality pairs really nicely with my world-class cynicism, which is basically my brand. Question number 2. What self-improvement techniques can I use to replace my negative thoughts with more empowering beliefs about myself or the situation? I guess I could always start journaling or meditating or practicing gratitude, but if we're to be completely honest, I would rather eat glass. Maybe I will try starting sarcasm-based affirmations, like, you were so brilliant, Casey. You were a beacon of light in a world and time that is otherwise a flaming dumpster fire. Gotta start small, baby steps, right? Okay, question number 3 and the final question for the night. What kind of thinking do I need to adopt in order to step outside my limiting beliefs and focus on what really and truly excites me? Okay, I had to think about this one for a little while, and I did write some things down, and I think the best metaphor that I can put out there to really explain what I'm feeling and thinking about this situation is that I need to stop thinking about my life here as some really cursed sitcom and instead reframe it in my mind as an adventure story. And sure, it might be a really poorly written adventure story with plot holes big enough to drive a semi-trailer through. But at the end of the day, it is my story. And so it's probably in my best interest to stop focusing so much on the things that I can't control and everything that's wrong with your society and how much I prefer my own society, and instead focus on the things here that do excite me, because there are things that excite me here. Like I said, I just need to focus on reframing everything in my head instead of, oh, I'm here, I'm stuck here because I'm being punished, or because A's gone on another ego trip again, and who knows when that's going to end. Like, I certainly don't. We never know when they're going to end. But to be honest, I don't know if that's what's happening here, but I'm just going to reframe it. I won't know until I'm finished here, but I'm going to try to reframe the whole entire situation in my head as, what if being stuck here is just like being in the tutorial level of a video game, and if I manage to survive and beat this level, then I get to move on to something that's really cool and important and more meaningful than this. And that just sounds so egotistical. Yeah, maybe I just need to reframe everything in my head. I'm not trapped here with you. Like, this is not a punishment. I'm just being prepared for something much more epic when I get home. And if I can survive here, then it's proof that I can survive whatever's coming, whatever's going to be thrown at me. Maybe, possibly. Let's not get carried away. So yeah, so that is my introduction to the Shadow Work Journal, Drest Levesque. You're watching this, I have no doubt about that. I hope you're happy that, well, you're not going to be happy because you didn't buy this one for me. I brought it for myself. So screw you. But that is my introduction. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, actually, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the whole format of the fill in the blanks and then the reflection questions, rather than just reflection questions, because as I've said before in one of these therapy type videos, I find it really hard to reflect. Like, I understand I am so old that when you get to my age, you're kind of forced to learn certain things about yourself. So I do know myself quite well, but I have trouble verbalizing it and putting it on paper. But I found this quite helpful, especially the fill in the blanks section. And then that helped with the reflection questions going into that, which was a fantastic experience. But again, that is a very short experience in this journal. That's only, I think, how many did I say it was 8? And then you get more of that, teenage events and teen to adult, which I'm not looking forward to. My childhood was amazing. And then when I got to my teenage years, I spent 2.5 years at war, and everything just went to shit after that. So I'm not really looking forward to diving into my teenage years, but we can do it, I guess. We're going to be forced to do it. But that's pretty much it for the night. I'm not going to do any more tonight. Like I said, I want to go and watch Survivor, at least a couple of episodes, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. So I'm going to put this down now. I'm going to go. This is Casey signing off. As always, stay safe out there, stay weird, and maybe invest in some therapy if you're having troubling thoughts.